Let's face it, tennis ratings are super confusing. In fact, we get tons of comments asking what the heck is up with the ratings? How is NTRP different from UTR? What does it mean if I'm in Europe versus in the United States, so on and so forth? So I've decided it's time to put a stop to this. I need to go ahead and make a video that addresses it directly. And so this video is going to be a super scientific breakdown of all the different ratings, what it means, and kind of where the different styles of play fall into these different ratings. So, see, we've got UTR down here on the bottom. This is NTRP. And notice our chart here on this axis is offense. That means somebody's development of their power, their racket head speed, their weapons. And on this axis is consistency, aka somebody developing their accuracy, their patterns, their ability to change direction, and their ability to just put the ball in play. So if you develop those two things evenly and you raise through the ranks of tennis, then we kind of have this smooth orange line right here where you're not favoring weapons and hitting the ball hard, and you're also not favoring consistency and just doing whatever you can to just put the ball in play. And we'll talk about these different styles of play in just a second. And if you follow this line all the way up to the very top, then up here we have the GOAT zone. If you have equal measures of tons of offense all the way up at a 10, and you can hit the ball in the court while swinging as fast as humanly possible, and you've got a 10 of consistency as well, that's where we get up to GOAT. If you don't know what GOAT means, by the way, just go look in the comments. Somebody will tell you in the comments down below. Now, if you're a 4-5 or a 5-0 player, you may be thinking to yourself, oh, I'm getting super close to this like elite high level of play. But the reality is there's a huge gap here between 5-0 or like 8 to 10.5 UTR. And that's why we're going to put here a galaxy, because there's literally like a different universe of play between 5-0, which is like the high end of amateur tennis, and players like Novak or Serena or Roger or Rafa. In fact, let's go ahead and put a couple of dots up here. Like Roger Federer, for example, leans more towards the offense side of things. Yeah, of course, he's consistent, but he's more of an attacking player. So Roger, just to give you an idea of how this scientific chart works, there's a dot for Roger, whereas Rafa, his main rival over the years, still in the GOAT zone, but obviously relies more on consistency. Does he have offense? Of course he does. But his game style is more predicated on just not missing while hitting tons of offense. So Rafa's more on the consistency side of the scale. Roger's a little bit more on the offensive side of the scale. And so you can see how this is kind of like starting to shake out, right? So what does this mean for all the rest of us mere mortals? Well, we've got what I'm going to call here the tram lines, where if you pretty evenly develop offense and consistency, you're more or less going to stay within this part of the chart. And so you're not overemphasizing one or the other. You're not super obsessed with offense. You're not super obsessed with consistency, and you don't have any weapons at all. And over here on this side of the chart, we've got players who all they care about is hitting it as hard as Roger or Rafa, and they make one every like 5 minutes, and they miss all the rest of them, and so they don't care about consistency very much. And so we've got lots of different styles that fall in here. For example, if you're super concerned with consistency, but you don't care about offense at all, then up to about 3.5 or 4.0 or so, you're going to fall into this category that we call a pusher. So this is somebody that doesn't care at all about weapons. All they care about is just putting the ball back in play. Doesn't matter to them how fast it is, how much spin there is. All they care about is just putting the ball back in play. And whatever you want to call this player, dinker, moonballer, whatever, pusher, it all kind of falls into that category. So up until about 4.0, you can win a lot of matches just focused on consistency and nothing else without really any weapons. And there's a range here, of course, from kind of beginner player on up to 3.0 to 3.5 to 4.0. There's relative, levels of pushers. And then once you get above 4.0, and as we raise up the offensive ranks, Now we've got a player who still focuses on more consistency, but they've got some more offense. And so this type of player we call a counter puncher. This is where I would classify like the most exhausting player, the green shirt guy, aka Ben. To me, my opinion, this is where he falls, is into the counter puncher kind of classification. He's very much on the consistency end of the spectrum, but he also has some weapons. Like you see when players come up to the net against him, he can hit clean passing shots. Like he hits winners. So he's not only concerned with consistency, and that's why he's above a 4-0 level. And you can be a counter puncher all the way up to very high levels of play, getting all the way up, close to professional levels of play, where pros obviously just have more weapons than your average amateur, good counterpuncher. So what about over on the offensive side of things? Again, we've got a line here right about 4.0 or so that gets drawn about here. And so we've got two different classifications. Over here, above 4-0, somebody who's got lots of weapons, can attack, is comfortable closing forwards and being offensive, but not necessarily super patient. We've got two different styles of player. We've got an aggressive baseliner. That's somebody who likes to hang out on the baseline and just attack from there. And then we also have net rushers. So these are serve and volleyers. These are players who are trying to get in close to the net as early as possible, as soon as possible. And so these are players who are not super patient. Consistency is not a big strength of theirs or weapon of theirs. They like points to be short. They're trying to cut the points as short as possible, so they're just closing in and being really offensive. Now, if you're offensive-minded, but not super high level yet, and all you're trying to do is just hit GOAT-like shots, and you're just attacking, but your consistency is low, that's what I like to call, the scientific term for this is the troll zone. These are players who are super obsessed with hitting the ball as hard as possible. They're not very consistent, not super savvy or smart when it comes to patterns or playing high percentage tennis. And so they're just trying to smoke every forehand that they hit down the line, on the line, and if they miss it, then they just blame their opponents for not playing real tennis, especially when they play somebody who's more on the consistency end of the spectrum, somebody like a pusher or a counterpuncher. When they smash shots and these players just kind of put it back in play and they end up losing the point by beating themselves, they just make fun of these other players who are more consistency minded. And so a lot of times these players kind of view themselves as being much higher level than they actually are. And I want to be really clear. Obviously, having a little bit of fun in this video and just kind of making a little bit of fun of some players that we see out there. But to be in all seriousness, if you're below 4-0 and you focus on offense, it doesn't mean you're a bad person or automatically a troll. Just want to be very upfront and clear about that. But the people who are kind of keyboard warriors on YouTube and in the forums at Tennis Warehouse and make fun of other players tend to be in this part of the chart. Again, super scientific breakdown here. So that's what I like to call the troll zone. Here's how everybody else kind of fits in. Your goal, ideally, should be to kind of stay within the tram lines here and equally develop your consistency along with your offense. If you only do one or the other, then you tend to kind of get pigeonholed into one of these classifications, which isn't bad, by the way, or wrong. If you love consistency and you don't care about weapons and you love winning lots of matches at 3-0 as a consistency player, awesome. That's incredible. And if you love attacking and you don't want to be above a 4-0 and you just love rushing the net or smashing ground strokes, then awesome. It's fantastic. Don't worry about developing your consistency. And if you're a pusher and you love it, don't worry about developing your offense. It's totally fine. But if your goal is to continue raising through the ranks of competitive tennis, just kind of keep this in mind. It's important to balance out offense and consistency at the same time. So if this breakdown was helpful, if it was entertaining, do me a favor and click the like button. Thanks for watching. And I'd love to hear your thoughts. What do you think? Did I miss any classifications? Is anything about my description inaccurate? I'm sure there's going to be a lot of comments about it. So feel free to let me know in the comments down below. I read all the comments. I always love hearing what people have to say. So let me know. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.